tutti, good evening and welcome to the Italian Radio Hour. Io sono Viviana and I would like to welcome back our regular listeners and also welcome any new listeners. Also, be sure to like us on Instagram and Facebook at Italian Radio Hour and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch up on any past video interviews. Vorrei dare il benvenuto ai nostri ascoltatori da tutto il mondo, grazie per essere con noi anche oggi mentre continuiamo il nostro viaggio per l'Italia e la cultura italiana. So today we have a very special episode where history, family, and the sweet traditions of Italian pastry come together. We are joined by Robert Zerilli, whose family founded the iconic Veniero's Pasticceria in New York, a beloved institution since 1894. 1894, and alongside we have Germana Valentini, an award-winning Italian journalist and author who has chronicled Italian-American life and the story of Veniero's in her work. Together, they will take us on a journey through generations of Italian heritage, the art of pastry making, and how one family business became a cultural landmark. Whether you're a fan of sfogliatelle, cannoli, or pignolata, or curious about immigrant stories, or just love a good tale of tradition and perseverance, this episode is for you. So don't go anywhere, ma prima pubblicità. Parli italiano? Do you want to learn, improve, or master your Italian? Istituto Mondo Italiano can help. Located in the heart of Regent Square, Mondo Italiano offers small group classes and one-on-one private tutoring in person or online to help you learn Italian in no time. Visit us online at istitutomondoitaliano.org. Welcome to the program, Robert and Germana. It's such a pleasure to have you both together. How are you today?
Very good. Grazie mille. Thank you.
So, Germana, you're connecting from Rome, right?
Correct. I'm in Rome right now.
Okay. So the last time and the first time we actually met, it was individually and it was in New York. So I look forward to having the ability to reconnect, possibly all three together over a good cup of coffee and some Italian rainbow cookies.
My favorite, the whole family's favorite, by the way. And there's some generational grandchildren, if you will, and even great-grandchildren. We all love it.
So this is a story that is going to span over generations. So I will start with Robert first, and wanted to ask you right off the bat, if you can tell us a little bit about your family history with Veniero's, how and who started the bakery, and what it meant for your family over the years.
Yes, that's a great question because, Veniero goes back for centuries, back in the Doges and, in Venice, and they migrated, but eventually settling in the Amalfi Coast area. And Antonio Veniero came here as a young man, I believe 14 years old on a ship, and came right over and made his way into here because there were family members already here that told him that, hey, you got to come here. And it's an amazing place to start a business. And of course, back then they all went to the same, wherever province where you were from, that's who you met. And they eventually wound up going from down, he was in Mulberry or down in Little Italy, to this area on 11th Street, 342 East 11th. At that time, that would be considered way uptown, but it was a very, the neighborhoods were changing. And, so he wound up working in a candy factory as a manager. And after 3 years, they made him manager. Excuse me. He was in a candy factory. 3 years, they made him manager. And then after the 9 years, he left and again met one of his relatives here on 11th Street. We have the Palma families, but we have many other families that were here, like Zerilli, who I am, I'm the nephew, great nephew of Antonio. And so that being said, there was a man named Mr. John Murphy who had this building. It was probably 29 years old, and he bought the building from Mr. Murphy. And that's where it starts. And he was starting to, it was a candy maker, confectionery. It was not pasticceria yet. It was not a pasticceria. It was more candies. And he roasted his own espresso in the rear yard, 6 different flavor beans, and blended it together. And of course, they loved the coffee. He's really one of the first to roast espresso here in the United States and New York here. Then they loved it, the coffee. It was more of a pool hall. They would hang out and talk because that's what people did in the country, the old country. And then eventually they wanted something sweet, and he added his candies, and it worked very well together. I take that around. I think it was, I don't remember if it was the candy first or the coffee, but yeah, he had the coffee to go with the candy. And then eventually he brought, he got his family, and he brought his wife Pasqualina. That when they come to America, he had many children, 4 girls and 3 boys. And so that's where it starts. And then maybe 10 years after, he brought master bakers from Italy. And these bakers were, he really wanted to expand his line. And that in turn really got us on the map pretty fast. They were making high-end products that were old school, I'm sure, but innovative new too for Americans. The taste change here. And he started do he really did so well. We won an award. The first award was from Rome, Bologna. I'm sorry, Rome in 1925. We won a gold coin, and there was a medal from there. And after that, it was in Bologna, 1933, and it just kept building and building. And everybody, if you were in Italy, they'd say, "You want a job? Go to Veniero." You know, it's literally, you might as well have a sign there at the where the docks were. And so to your question, yeah, Venero's was always relevant. We were the first. I mean, that's really it. In fact, bakers, after they left Venero, they wound up opening their own shops in Brooklyn and there, but they all had to start somewhere. We were the
Mhm.
first line, if you will. And so there's a lot of um like I said, it wasn't just Antonio, it was a family, cousins, everyone had to join in. My grandfather came in, and then there was the other cousins, De Palma family coming in, and they pool their resources. Some might have went into other types of businesses, but whatever it was, I mean, he did well, and he was a good real estate. He was also one of these men that could work deals with so many different people. It's almost like he was a banker. He helped other people in the neighborhood. We would sell even milk for 5 cents out of a beer can or something. People filled up their milk, and they could at least, survive with whatever. It was hard times back then, but he was a very generous man. And there were so many stories. You have to read it in the book. Germana could explain a lot more of those stories in detail.
I will try to extrapolate a couple of those stories, but
Definitely.
what
I don't know
was
if I answered your question 100%, but I'll try
no,
to.
no, no. And believe me, we have plenty of time to
Good.
dive into the details.
Good.
So this was back then. And can you describe kind of the East Village neighborhood of your youth? Who
Oh, my
would,
youth.
yes,
Interesting.
because now you're obviously an integral part of the business since you're running it. So back, that was history. Now this,
Do you
you.
want the youth when I started, when I was like teenager, or do you want to know now currently?
No,
Well,
and
no.
you can actually take us from what it was to
Yeah.
what it is, what it
Well, when
feels
I
like.
came as a kid, we lived in New Jersey, so my mother would take me on the A train, coming down from the bus at the terminal, 178th Street, coming down the A train. And to me, it was an adventure because New Jersey, in a suburban town, which is all very no industry, houses, they were very quiet. And then you come into the big city, you're a little kid, and I remember all the sights and smells and the noise, and it was very intimidating, but not, it was exciting. I mean, I had a lot of, my ADD was going off the roof, but I was really needed stimulation. And the funniest part was I come into the business after we take 2 trains, you come across, and there's my father in the back and his friends, and they're all talking Italian back in the 60s, early mid 60s, I mean. And then, they'd have their demi-tasse. We wouldn't even say espresso, it was demi-tasse. And they would have
Mhm.
their coffee in the back, and I'd run around the bakery just exploring. And even in the buildings next door, I'd run up the top to the roof of a building, nothing more than 2 stories. And where I live in New Jersey, I wanted to explore. And I loved the bakery smells, and the bakers would get a kick out of the owner's son, taking them and making cannoli shells downstairs. Or again, the rainbow cookies. I would be given a rainbow cookie by one of our tenants. His name was John Skelsey. He was like in his 40s then, but he just recently passed away, I don't know, 6 years ago,
Yeah.
five. He was in
Mhm.
almost late 90s. And he lived in our building for all these years, and it's like family. So many people in the neighborhood. But again, Italians started to slowly move out, and more gentrification. And the area, I think it was called the East Side. It wasn't the East Village. They changed that in the 50s and 60s, the beatnik. They wanted to give it a new name to compete with the West Village. So that changed that. But of course, this area was going through a lot of real estate. It got much more expensive. I mean, I wish we could have bought buildings next door. We didn't, but my dad had opportunities, and it's all about expansion. If you're good, you can expand and get bigger. So we missed out, and but that's okay. But then what happens is NYU too is a big playing part. We're literally like in a campus town here. There's so many
Hmm.
big universities and Baruch College and many different colleges. So younger people moving in. So that to me helped a lot. And of course, when you're getting more relevant, you're getting noticed in the New York Times article. You're in Zagat. It's a guide that people had to have. There was no internet. So it was all about just getting noticed through word of mouth and through publication. And we were getting good reviews. And not only that, my dad in the 70s had his station wagon. And then he eventually got a truck, but our vans, but we wound up delivering wholesale to Balducci's in the West Village, which is the first gourmet shop, Italian gourmet, on 6th Avenue and 10th Street, right opposite side of us, like 5 blocks west. Then I remember delivering to her, but see, he was delivering his station wagon and then bring the stuff there. And then it got so popular, eventually they knew it was from East Side and brought business over. And that's where it starts to really grow and change. And again, more educated people, more people not so hippie, and it was just the neighborhood was dangerous in the 60s, 50s because it was not depression, it was a recession. And it was so bad. I mean, this business was really teetering. My dad got it from the Veniero family, bought it in 1970. I mean, that's where it goes from Veniero to Zerilli's, and we keep it in going because the old Veniero just needed to retire. He couldn't do it anymore. And I'm
Hmm.
very pleased that, my father still had that. They said we got to keep it in the family. So Frankie was the man. And he was a manager already for the last like 25 years. So it made sense progression wise.
Hmm.
And that's when I came in. You wanted to know about me. So me coming in, I dropped out of Pace University. I tried to do it both. It was very hard. I remember coming on weekends working here, but that was in the late 70s. Then by the 80s, I made full time 81 working with dad. He was very hard to work with. He was a master sergeant in World War II. So he was a very tough individual, only child, and he had a lot of his friends and that was his generation. I think he was 44 years older than me. He had me when he was 44. So he was
Hmm.
a very demanding, fair, but, very expected everything perfection. Maybe that's the key is, you always strive for perfection. And then by working with him, I learned a lot. And like I told you, I was driving on truck when I did cappuccino, barista. I was behind the counter. I was up in offices. I was all over the place. And I always felt I never could live up to his expectations. That's the problem. And so with that, it
I don't know. I think you will be quite pleased with that nice tray of cannoli.
now I see my cannoli picture. So yeah, I almost look back and what's funny about like Google Photos, but it already goes back Google to 15 how many years. You can see everything that progressed. And what I'm proud of is that I did so much that I kind of, if I have to relive it in my head, I might forget so many details, but all those little details, the fabric is what made where we are, I guess. We really couldn't have done it. And Germana, with her book, opened up it's almost like another dimension, and the
Hmm.
proudness and having this, I don't know how to say it, just a newfound love for the business
Hmm.
and things that relatives that they're coming in now that I never met. And to me, and going back to the old country and being recognized there. So I went from a zero to hero. Like I look at it
Hmm.
like I went from it's just amazing, a whole new life because I don't speak Italian because again I grew up in a waspy little town in New Jersey. They'd hit you in the back of the head, hey, speak English, and that's what it was, the new generation. So when you're going to Italy and finding more relatives or people that in Germany, I got my honorary citizenship from the mayor in the town of Vico Quince. Like to me, you can't compare that to anything. And of course, being on this podcast is the most recent to be something like this is like the pinnacle of going just up, up, up instead of down. Working with my dad felt like very same level. It's just like, where am I going? But I was younger. I mean,
Yeah.
30s. He died. I was 31 when he died. It's very young. But
Hmm.
I didn't feel it that way because I worked seriously hard with him for 13 years. That's it. But
Yeah.
it was an intense 13. It's almost like an internship, but doing 13 years of, learning a lot. And
So
yet I
a
still didn't
13-year-old
learn
boot
enough.
camp.
I didn't learn enough. I wish I could learn much more of the baking, but that's okay. We have bakers. I think that's the secret. Other bakers have failed when they run their business themselves and do it all. Because
Hmm.
why? They burn out. They can never do it all. And then they got to retire. They can't go past 70s in the 70s. They just can't. So
Hmm.
if you have it where you have a crew of bakers and management and running it, that works. So that's the secret right there, I think. And, you know,
That's the secret. So, Germana, you are obviously very well known for your journalistic career, and it seems that you have been focusing a lot on the power of food, Italian cuisine, roots gastronomy, and how there is indeed this deep emotional connection and cultural connection that food creates across time and space. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you eventually moved into journalism. And second question is, how did you come across the Veniero's family and story? And then we'll go from there. So just a couple of big questions right off the bat.
Sure, I'll be very quickly. So I started coming to the US because I used to be a dancer and a dance teacher. So coming to New York and Broadway was the best way for me to have dance classes and being always updated on what was happening in the dance world. But I always loved to tell stories. So, strolling around New York and the US in general, I felt in love with Italian American people because I really felt home. I traveled the world a lot since I was a young girl because I graduated in foreign languages. So, I started going abroad to learn languages when I was 13. So I've been to UK, France, Austria, Germany, you name it. But the only place where I really felt home was the United States and mainly New York. Because sometimes you can listen speaking Italian, you find your food, you find your things. Sometimes you really think, am I in Italy or in the US? And mostly New York, it's very similar to Naples. So sometimes I'm like, guys, where am I? Because
Energy, the dynamics, and
yeah, exactly. So getting older, I would say, I started looking for another job because I couldn't be a dancer and a dance teacher anymore. So I ended up being a TV writer. And one of my, I would say, most loved TV shows was about the Italian Americans. So I started looking for places with wonderful stories to tell and places that could be landmarks in New York. Because mainly what I wanted to do, I wanted to make people in Italy learn the history of our migration and Italian Americans. Because in Italy, what we know is mainly linked to beautiful movies and TV series that we have, but that only told us negative stereotypes. Okay, so The Godfather, The Sopranos, Goodfellas, you name it, which, don't get me wrong, beautiful masterpieces of movies and TV shows, but Italian Americans are not just that kind of things. So I wanted people to learn beautiful stories. I started doing, location scouting to figure out what kind of stories I wanted to tell. And I went to Veniero because, of course, I did the research and it was one of the most ancient bakeries in New York. I went to a few of them, and Veniero was the one who really was amazing to me because of two reasons. As soon as I entered, I was really overwhelmed by the smell of an Italian pasticceria. So I was brought back in the days when I used to be a child and I used to go to the pasticceria with my father to buy cookies or what we call pastarelle for Sunday lunch. Okay. This kind of smell, it's very hard to find nowadays in Italy because, bakeries, pasticcerias are changing in Italy. Now we are doing macarons, we are doing cheesecake,
donuts or
brownies, donuts, because we are trying to Americanize to be more international. Going to Veniero's, I went back in the days with that smell. And then Robert came to meet us, and after 5 minutes, I felt home. Like you do in Italy. I mean, you go at the bar, always at the same place, and you feel home. So I really felt that was the place. And then after the TV show, we became friends with Robert, with his family. And I was always
And the bakers.
discovering that they had a wonderful story, actually. And thank God they kept a lot of memories, photos, newspapers, little papers with orders and things like that. They really have a lot of what we call memorabilia. I mean, as you're showing the place.
It was packed.
the
This is
same as
just
it
a
used to
couple of weeks
be.
ago. Yeah.
So, and then one day we were talking, and Robert told me, you know what? We are turning 125 years in September. We're doing a huge celebration. So I said, wow, Robbie, you know what? You should write a book about your history, because, I mean, it's something, you know, in New York, it's not so easy to find a place that lasts for so many years and is still family ran. So, and he said, yeah, I would love to, but I don't know how to do it. And I say, to be honest, me neither, because I mean, I'm a TV writer. I was working with some Italian and American newspaper, but I wasn't a book writer. So he said, you know what, let's try. You will write the book. And there you are.
There is the book. So the book
Nice.
that drove me to Veniero for the first time. So there is a connection that starts in Italy, continues in the US, goes back to Italy, and comes back to the US. I just love that. So, and I do have some other pictures of the memorabilia there, but sorry for the interruption. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. No, of course. And so I said, okay, you know what, I can try. And then something that started like, okay, let's try to do this, and we will sell it in the pasticceria, we will print it and we will sell it. Then I had a meeting with Colonnese Editore, which is a very important publishing company in Naples, led by a wonderful young woman who said, you know what, this is a wonderful story to tell, so I'm going to publish the book. And the book became something bigger. And when I started doing researches, I discovered that the story was even bigger than we thought, even because, thanks to Robert, he was so smart to decide recording one of Antonio Veniero's son, Peter Veniero, before he passed. We had like more than 2 hours videotape of him telling all the stories that his father used to tell him, things that he knew about the family. And starting from that footage, I was able to recall a lot of things. I started a huge work, and then COVID came. So I had to go back and run to Italy, taking the last flight to go back to Italy.
Yeah.
Stopping researches in the US, but starting the researches in Italy. So I was able to reconnect the 4 families involved in Veniero's history. And then all the family started giving me pieces of history and photos and letters that they kept. They didn't know how to connect each other, so I did. And that's why writing this book was a wonderful journey. It took me 2 years, because doing the genealogical tree, first time I went to the publishing company with the genealogical tree, the publisher looked at me and say,
where
we don't know how to put this in a book. Yeah, it was 5 sheets of A5. So, and that's why you have QR code inside the book, because it was the only way to have this huge genealogical tree. But I learned a lot of things back in Vico Equense, because we had a lot of adventure writing this book. I was able to find Robert's grandfather, because they didn't know where he was buried and what happened to him. As I was able to find him, I was able to find where he was living when he came back to Italy. And you know how things goes in Naples. I'm a little bit crazy, so I was able through papers to figure out where he was living when he went back to Naples. So I went there, I started looking, around. I took a few pictures for Robert, sending picture to him on WhatsApp, this is where your grandfather used to live. And then when I was there, a lady came down and said, of course, in Napoleon dialect, Signori, che state cercando? So she said, what are you looking for? So I started explaining to her, I'm a writer, I'm writing a book and blah, blah, blah. And she said, you know what? Let me talk to someone. So she started screaming inside hey, voglio a giornalista. So, and they kept calling people. And then one young lady just called on the phone her grandmother that used to live there ever since and said, do you recall of a bakers coming back from the US? And I said, yes, I recall him. We used to call him Americano. So it was really a wonderful journey. And I think that on top of that, the things that I'm really happy and proud of is that for the first time, Robert was able to come back to Vico Equense, find your roots back, and have the honorary citizenship. The whole town of Vico Equense, let's say, welcoming him and tell him how much proud they were of having such a wonderful citizen in New York, because the three families were from Vico Equense. So I just want to mention that the Zerilli family used to run the Gran Caffè Zerilli in Vico Equense, which is still today the main cafe in the main piazza of Vico. So they have a wonderful story even in Vico. And we were able to enter the apartment where Robert's great-grandfather was born. The ceiling is still the same. And the owner of the apartment was still having the contract that they signed when the family sold everything and moved to the US. So it was a very emotional moment. And this book is full of emotional stories to tell for the Veniero family, for the Zerilli family, for the Di Palma family, and even for other stories that are linked. Thanks to Roberts, I was able to do the Italian version of a book about Gio Di Maggio, because Gio Di Maggio was one of the customers of Veniero. I'm writing my second book that is about a story that I already had the chance to talk about in Veniero, and it's linked to the Triangle Shirtwaist factory and tells the story of women in migration, because even in Veniero, women were so important, because through three women, these three families were linked together and were able to run the bakery together and have the pasticceria still living today.
Yeah. So, Robert, when we look at the honorary citizenship criteria, I think they also highlighted not only the pride from Vico Equense, but indeed an international example of great creativity. And the creativity, I think also you mentioned it in a way that there were challenges and adaptations. You said that in the 50s and the 60s, the business faced certain challenges, but the reputation of the quality of the products coming out from Veniero's kind of allowed the bakery to go on. Owning and building, because eventually prices skyrocketed. So that was a huge benefit.
Yep.
The modernization, the fact that they were roasting coffee and maybe had the first espresso machine. But the one thing that goes beyond creativity, I think, is what is for me the most important C is the community. I have, through my conversations with Germana and the book, and also what I have read about you, is that really the bakery served as a community hub. That was a point of meeting exchanges. So can you talk a little bit about what would have been when I came, it was packed. So it continues.
Right.
But there were people from, you could see the tourists like myself.
Yes.
You could see the regular customers.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit what that vibrancy or that would have felt like back in the day and what it feels like now.
Well, like I mentioned, back in the day, they all came and it was like social clubs and they did talk and they, did their politics, whatever they did. They met there and they listened to opera, whatever they, but they were just really interacting. And then I believe one of the Veneros, Peter, was the one. He was one of the head of the men's club or organization of the Lower East Side and stuff. He was instrumental in doing a lot of political stuff in the neighborhood, something to do with the push carts. We had an incident. It was great that he went to one day, he walked out the building, and then there was like no push carts. And across the street, and he goes to a cop. What happened? He says, "Oh, no, no, you got to talk to the borough president." So he was very influential in, and because they rate, what happened was they raised the rate. Borough president, they told the cop, "No, you tell the borough president to come see me instead of going down there." And then eventually they raised the rate for like $2 to $28 for the month or something. And so he told all the shop, he says, "No, tell him to come." So he had an idea. He says, "See all this fruit?" He told all the shop owners on the push carts, "Put them inside your window." So what they did that, and they had a push cart. So now, because they were not like a business, they just had it on the street, and but when the borough president come and he told them, he says, "This is it. You can't. These things got to go. They're not going to pay." He says, "No, no. These people have a right to put it. Look, you see that fruit in the window? They are, that's their business. Whatever they can." And anyway, with that, he had no choice but to put the push carts back. But this is the kind of stuff that you have to be involved with, the owners, and then customers too. Obviously, they come here because what is a coffee shop? It's been like that since even in Grand Cafe Zerilli. That's where people talk. They did so many different things. They did even shows there at that time. I remember there was people singing and everything. But the reality is that it was always about just having a nice cup of coffee, whether talking to a friend and making all these little things happen. So I think in New York City, that culture has been for years and it just
Mhm.
continues. And, you know, remember, it was just an Italian neighborhood. So the Italians, so once the neighborhood changed, my dad had the foresight from those little tables when I used to come in as a kid, what, 4 or 5 tables? They were little round marble tables with some chairs having a coffee. He had the foresight to put 32 seats, 4 seats each,
Mhm.
in the main store. Ripped out the whole display case when you walk in on the right, these sliding glass doors, took them all out, put some mirrors to make the store look bigger, these square mirrors, and he put the tables, and that exploded. So you're looking at the other side, but in my main store side, this is where the cafe, there's my picture of
Mhm.
me holding my dad. But the main store side, where the showcases are, was where
Yes.
the first tables were, not this room.
Ah,
This room was a bake
okay. I'm
shop.
gonna
We
grab
moved
that.
so many things. So people would sit there, and then eventually what happened, the reason he opened that side, he had a foresight to move that bake shop that was in there. He made that a cafe in 1984. But prior to that, in the 70s, the people were like coming at night, Saturday nights. I remember making cappuccinos and helping there. But it was so busy that they would block the showcases. And that's where we would sell most of the product, like this. Yes, they would
Hmm.
stand in front of that. And so he figured this isn't good. You want to sell more takeout. The cafe's nice, but think about it, just an $8 check or $5 versus a big order. So then he had the foresight to break through the wall, make a
Hmm.
whole new room, make that cafe. It was a huge undertaking. He spent 650,000 cash back then. I mean, it was a lot of money in 1983. So that was brilliant because now it freed up the store again. You could take those tables out and have your retail customers come in. That's when we started getting very popular. But these are things that you have to do. You have to adjust. Now we have like a 100-seat cafe versus that little 32-seat cafe. So
Hmm.
that was my job too, is over the years, my dad died in 94, but we put a new bake shop upstairs. We got rid of the rental stores that we were next door, the ones we should have bought the buildings for. But these are things that you do and to accommodate and make the customers happy. I think they love it. The back cafe is a different ambiance. We call it the Venetian room because these paintings
Yes.
that my dad had back there, it looks like the scenes from Venice. And it is funny because it's Francesco Guardi was the artist that these paintings look like from his works. But the main thing is that the stained glass room that you showed is a whole different atmosphere, like an old Neapolitan cafe. He wanted that look. So you have the old look in the front, I mean, the stained glass, that was the first cafe. And this is the room right there, the Venetian room. And in fact, it's a little darker now because I changed the atmosphere. I wanted it a little the way it was originally. These are fluorescent lights up top, but now I put a nice blue light and I can change it to red or green and I can change the atmosphere. But I like it because the paintings light up with the light on them. It gives it a much warmer feel. So that to me is important when you're in a cafe. You don't want to be shocked with so much bright light. but I'm one to at least always try to do better. I always believe you got to improvise better, better, better. Because if you
Yeah.
just stay the same, you're going to get pushed back in the back of the pack. And that's the way
Yeah.
I've always had that. Right, Germana?
Yeah, now if I may add
Yes.
just something for what you were talking
Yes.
about, Viviana, is that Veniero was and still is a landmark, of course, but it's a place where you feel home. So
Hmm.
uh, it was like this for the Italian migrating from Italy. And
Hmm.
that's the reason why, for example, Veniero was very well known for confetti, because
Right.
Mhm.
at that time, you go on the other side of the world, you're used to celebrate your important moments with something that they don't have over there. So
Right.
Veniero was very important because you were able to find the things that you were used to. There is a huge picture that Robert sent me, and we have it in the book, of an advertisement of the pasticceria on the building on First Avenue. And there is
Mhm.
this huge advertisement on the wall that says guantiere, because Veniero was specialized in the cookie trays for weddings that were called guantiere. But still, in the 80s, one of the things that I really loved, talking to Claudia, Robert's sisters, she said to me, when their father passed, they were all together in the bakery, and she was sitting at the cashier, and a woman came and said, I knew about your dad. I'm very sorry. I just want to tell you that your father was the only one when I moved in here in New York. I was a stranger. I was in the neighborhood. First thing I did, I came to the pasticceria. He introduced himself, said, how are you? Where are you from? Blah, blah, blah. And he said to me, anything you might need while you're here alone, just come down to the pasticceria and we got your back. So this is
Wow.
what Veniero
Wow.
used to be, was, and still is. That's why Veniero is so important, because you have customers most of the time that I'm sitting there with Robert. You have regular customers coming and say, Robert, look what I found. I found the wedding cake of my grandfather that was made here. They have the receipt. They have a lot of things. It's full of people
True.
being very close to Veniero as a part of the family. That's why
Mhm.
Veniero is so unique.
Yeah, people kind of almost like a magnet where all these lives. So it's interesting because I wonder if, Robert, you might have taken
Yes.
your story for granted, and then there is this journalist from Italy say, "I want to tell you a story," and maybe she also dug up information that you were not aware of. So how did this exchange?
By the way, I'll just interrupt.
Mhm.
She was just talking about,
You might
oops.
have to go just a little further back because
Oh,
of
is
these
it back?
virtual backgrounds. We need to find.
Yeah,
Okay.
see that?
Okay.
Yes, that's the wedding
That's from
cake.
the 1950s. Somebody brought a
Uh-huh.
wedding cake picture in. This is what's exactly what she's talking about. We
Yeah.
do get those all the time that people do say, my great great grandmother or grandmother had your wedding cake. Imagine saying great grandmother, great great. So it's a pride. It really brings a lot of, that's what makes me love my business coming to work, because
Mhm.
you hear these stories that you just
Yeah.
keep, I think they want to share. Here's a letter as I'm sitting at my desk from Ohio. I should
Hmm.
put save on here.
Okay.
Look at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
penmanship.
Oh, yes.
The
People still do
penmanship.
great,
I
great
need to
try.
write her back. Who writes letters like this?
Yes.
It's
Thank
just
you.
beautiful.
Hmm.
So I get them all the time and I love it. It just feels like it grows more and more, because as the older you get, I think people feel the kinship or something, connectedness. So
Yeah,
anyway,
it's
go ahead.
almost like letters to Santa Claus, but
Yeah,
Santa Claus is
exactly.
you.
Yeah. Santa, hey, they believe in Santa Claus. I still believe in Santa Claus. No, I'm only
Yeah.
kidding.
Do you love Italian food? Want to learn the secrets of homemade pasta, sauces, and traditional recipes, just like Nana used to make? At Mondo Italiano, our authentic Italian cooking classes bring the taste of Italy right to Pittsburgh. From fresh pasta to regional specialties, every class is a delicious journey through Italy's culinary traditions. Spots fill quickly, so reserve your seat today. Call us at 412-478-2681 or find us online. Mondo Italiano, where Italy comes alive one dish at a time.
Un caffè, per favore. For more than 35 years, Pittsburgh has started its mornings with La Prima Espresso. From freshly roasted beans from around the world to the perfect espresso or cappuccino, every cup is crafted with care. Stop by and enjoy the warmth of our baristas and familiar faces, or bring the taste of Italy home. Order online today at laprima.com. La Prima Espresso, Pittsburgh's coffee. So obviously, we talked about the family, but actually the building itself has, so the background that I'm using for this interview today is not,
Yes.
by coincidence. It's a beautiful terrazzo floor, and then if I remember, you have the stamped metal ceilings in one of the rooms. You have the old mirrors, the display case, and the big sign outside.
Right, the
Yeah,
80-year-old sign. It's about 80
yes.
years old, I believe. Yeah, a little.
So is the building itself, or maybe the story, I don't know if a story, the family been certified as a landmark?
No, it has not, and I don't think I'd want to have it that.
Because then it stops you can't do anything anymore.
Exactly. That's not going to happen. But we are an unofficial landmark. I like to say unofficial because
Okay.
we have been recognized as that on our diplomas, on our whatchamacallit, not diplomas, on our citations, the proclamations.
Yes.
Right? We were verbally on our 100th anniversary called that, I believe by this borough president, but Ruth Messenger, something, the unofficial landmark. And I like to hear it like that. That's all, because it really is the landmark. In fact, it makes me want to, I believe when I go to McSorley's Ale House, they're 40 years older than us, 1854. And they're, I think on their sidewalk, Ferrara's has too, but theirs is falling apart. It's so broken up, but I want it like a nice brass, something on my sidewalk. And I don't know how to go about it because New York City, you got to be careful. They have regulations for everything, but maybe that will say 1894, recognizing my business. Like there's an old shot of the bakery on the floor, the sidewalk, but something before you come in the entrance, would be very nice because it says something. In Europe, they have a lot of that, and they put these markers and things like that. I think it deserves it, either on the facade of the building, the face of it, or on the floor of the, coming into the entrance. But it does deserve that, it's like a person. You get a badge of honor or something right here, it needs it. But I want to, I think people just love the fact that this is an original location, still in the family. You could say there's Ferrara. Ferraras, yes, they're in their family. There's some relative. That's the only ones I know. But then, like Katz's Deli, not a bakery, change hands, different, not in the family. Another one, Russet. There are certain families that either they are or they're not. But it's very hard, 131 years. Maybe they're in the family 199 years or 8. We're the oldest, like really keeping it together. And that's a tough act to follow. Not easy.
So, in the research, there is some family connections also to some famous musicians and also other famous musicians that came and patronized the bakery. So there is a painting in the bakery, but I know that there is also a second cousin whose name is probably very recognizable. So, Germana, did you find this information? Did Robert share it with you, and then you research a little more?
Peter found it. I'll interrupt. Peter, right?
So a lot of suggestions were done by Peter Veniero in the footage, but as far as the famous singer that you're mentioning, so we can say that it's Bruce Springsteen.
Right.
Robert told me, because there is a funny episode that is also in the book that is linked to Bruce Springsteen. As far as Frank Sinatra, there is this wonderful picture that you're showing, and that's why we know that was one of Veniero customer. But there are some other examples like Enrico Caruso. Enrico Caruso used to be a very important customer of Veniero. And if you go to politics, you have Fiorello La Guardia, and you can really name it, all the important customers, VIP, let's say, as we say to say, VIP customers that
Right.
Veniero had through the years. So what I discovered more was about family, okay? Because after a lot of years, part of the family, the two families involved, went back to Italy. And that's when they lost contacts. So I was able to trace back things with the Di Palma family that is in Italy, with Robert's grandfather, who went back to Italy and at one point lost contact with them, and also with the Veniero family, because the Veniero at one point left the pasticceria business. There were lots, 7 children, so they just lost contact, even each other. So I was able to put everybody together and make them know. And the things that I love is that the Di Palma family now is going to visit Robert every time that they are in New York. And Robert was able to see a part of them in Vico Equense. So it's something that I'm really happy about, because through the book, we were able to not only tell the story of the families, the story of the pasticceria, that I always say it's really history, because they were involved in all the important things that happened in the city of New York. But we were also able to trace family roots and bring the family together again.
In fact, one of them in Connecticut 2 years ago, or it's going to be this spring, I don't know, they had a picture of Antonio, a portrait of him in the late 20s, and 100-year-old portrait, maybe mid-20, 1925, but he's there, and now it's sitting in that big cafe with the stained glass. And they said it was in this house. I went to pick it up in Connecticut. They said, Robert, we think you should have it. They had no reason to really put their grandfather anymore, and it belongs in the shop. And I was so honored to have that picture. Last time I saw it was like early 80s in Brooklyn from Juliet Veniero, who was the youngest daughter of Antonio. So that's the family. It just went along to their kids. And then it went to, I don't know, down in Atlanta, Georgia, then up to Connecticut, and then to me. Like, what a story. It just moved around, and everyone in the cafe deserves to see the founder. I mean, my dad was just, again, he has his picture in the back. It's great, which you saw, I'm holding it in the cafe, but, and it's funny, as we're talking now, I'm thinking, German, when am I going to get my portrait? Should it be a photo or should it be a painting? It's like
in the museums where you have all the
we have to think about it.
No, photo. I am not. Those portraits make me creepy. The paintings or something. It sounds too funny. Oh my God.
But yes, so the book I just currently is available in Italian, and so the way that is divided into is 6 chapters, where the first one is Sogno Americano, the American Dreams. Then we have the Veniero Confectionery, Veniero Caffè Pasticceria, I Fratelli, the Brothers Veniero, I tempi cambiano, I legami restano. I think this is a beautiful title period, in addition to the content, that time changes, but the ties stay. And Frankie's Choice, and then 21st Century, because obviously things move on, things change. And then obviously Germana's notes. So I was wondering, Germana, you as a writer, this is your first book, first, and there is another one that you're working on. How has this story affected you and changed you? Because I feel that you are almost like an additional family member now. You're like part of the story. You almost feel like you lived those experiences because you researched it, you heard the stories, you had to put them in writing. So how has that impacted you?
So definitely I feel part of the family, because I have to say that Robert is a wonderful person, and they really make you feel part of the family. Robert and his family, they are all amazing. It really changed my perspective towards New York, towards the Italian Americans. And every time that I go to the pasticceria, and I also had the chance to spend a few nights in the building, in the apartment that used to be one of the Zerilli's family's apartment. And I really feel, you know, the characters going around me. Every time that I step inside, I can really see them going around, and I can imagine, you know, the wonderful cafe part that you were talking about, the Venetian cafe. Every time that I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is where they used to roast the coffee, and this is where the Robert's father office used to be. And every corner that I go in the bakery or up in the building, I really can imagine their life back then. So it really changed my point of view on the pasticceria, but on the building too. And every item has a story behind. And that's why when I step inside the pasticceria, I always feel overwhelmed by so much history and stories that they have inside that place.
And I want to add that the basement was still the original bake shop. So that bake shop, the oven used to be down there, the coal oven, where she said the back rear yard. What that is a cafe. They put a roof in 1947 back there, but that was outside. That's why he roasted outside, the rear of the building. And below that floor, which it is now, was where the coal oven was, behind the building. So we had to give up the coal oven in 1994. But think about it, all those years, I mean, we had it and we still have ovens. We're grandfathered in. You're allowed to bake in the basement. If you try to put a big gas oven, a big gas 25 pan oven revolving in New York City, they wouldn't allow you, the New York City Fire Code. But because we're grandfathered in, we had it before, and that's the way it is. So we're allowed to bake down there. And refrigerators, freezers, it's up and down. I like to equate it to the Keebler Cookie House because it used to be a thing that everybody was like these little gnomes are walking inside that tree all the way up. That's Veniero. Am I right, Germana? You have the
Yeah,
basement,
and
the store, and the
let me
bake shop
just add
above,
one thing.
and then the packaging up above that. And it's like, it is a
Yeah,
cookie. It's
and it's
amazing.
not only about what you see, but even about what you
Behind.
can taste. I always
Yeah.
say that they are over there, you find kind of cookies that, let's say, biscotti, okay, that you cannot find in Italy anymore.
Right.
So it's like, and you rediscover stories. We were talking about the rainbow cookies, okay? Everybody thinks
What's the
that
story
rainbow
about
cookies,
it?
exactly. Everybody thinks that rainbow cookies are Italian American, but it is not correct. They used to be Italian. They were Christmas cookies because, you know, because of the colors. Christmas decoration are white, green, and red. But then Italian Americans saw the Italian flag, because let's say something that I'm sure you will agree, Viviana, because we already talked about that. We in Italy, we call them Italian Americans. But when they introduce yourself in the US to you, they say, I'm Italian. So they felt Italian. That's why that kind of cookies having the Italian flag became something so important to them. But going to Veniero, you will really understand that Italian Americans are, let's say, our Noah's Ark, because they keep our recipes, our traditions, everything that we are losing.
Yeah,
Indeed.
that's true.
Indeed, it's a time capsule that is it's priceless, because again, if you want to study what the traditions were, even the language or dialects or saints' patron feasts, that's where you have a depository of a lot of information. And actually talking about the rainbow cookie, I just wanted to mention that we are located in Pittsburgh. We have this huge tradition that is the wedding cookie table that has been taken over many other states, of maybe people from Pennsylvania getting married in other states and wanted to have a wedding cookie table. It is so elaborate now. Before it was just, you had the cookie. Now you have the containers to take your cookies, and people actually expect a quite wide array and numbers I think a couple of years ago, we set the world record of over 88,000 cookies. I think it was
Wow.
88,512. It was a continuous table. And in just a couple of weeks, I will take place on the world's record cookie exchange, where every bakers will have to present 10 dozen cookies of their choice, and then two for we're raising funds. And the rainbow cookies, because that's another rainbow cookies, Italian flag cookies, there is usually someone that always makes it. And personally, I never cared for it until, I met Germana. Germana tells me, you must go. And I went and I prove it because I still have my little bag. And those cookies, I don't remember how many I didn't even make it to the hotel room.
Oh my God. Mamma mia.
Mamma mia. In addition to that, there was the cheesecake, and there was a few other things that kind of became my lunch, dinner, and breakfast for
So
for those
wonderful.
2 days there. Because one of the things that you have Veniero has managed to do is to keep the recipes. I hear that you have some very traditional, like ways of making your sfogliatelle, which next, I think this is my rainbow cookie. Again, this is as far as it went from the pasticceria to my car to then we know.
Nice picture. Boy, nice
Oh,
picture. I like
beautiful
that.
picture. I was looking
I
for
like the
another
colors
picture that I have,
but
but
the colors, if you notice, Germana, do you see it? They just blend in together with the cookie. They
yeah,
pick
no,
up.
it's
They pick
amazing.
up.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Tell us a little bit about your sfogliatella. What can someone expect from biting into that crunchy sfogliatella?
Oh my God, that's a good
I
question.
was looking for a picture, Viviana, but your picture is definitely better than mine. So let's stay like this.
I'm going to put my order. So as I said, you have some old recipes coming from the old country, Robert. Is that correct?
Pasta croce, sfogliatelle, number one there, but also quartazamali. Those are the other biscotti, but I call these anise and
Mhm.
S biscuit. It's another one, but they have the Regina, was named after Queen Regina.
Mhm.
But a lot of these are named after, like the sfogliatella was invented by these nuns in Naples. So it was a nun that, started making a certain way. But I think they put cherries and some other item in there, but they removed that. And then 200 years later, it was a baker in Naples again that took it over and made it the right way with thin layers. It means thin layer, the sfogliatella, the dough, and all with that beautiful, what is it? Semolina dough.
Yeah, yeah.
Semolina. And it's that beautiful orange zest of the cheese, the cream, and I mean the cream, the cheese. But I mean that's an item that is just so in its own right. It deserves it's I love it. In fact, I don't have behind me here. I have a shirt that I made up. It says Sfogliatella. I wrote the name.
Uh-huh.
Underneath it, it's phonetically spelled out. Sfogliatelle. And then underneath it says Kabish? Question mark. Get it? Kabish? And that's my shirt, black. And it's a great little shirt because
Yeah.
who the hell knows Sfogliatella? There's only a couple people. I gotta really sometimes I gotta credit my contemporary cake boss there. It's Buddy Balestro in Hoboken. He
Mhm.
put on the map this Italian bakery, which is amazing. He's the P.T. Barnum in the circus of bakers. His
Yeah.
product doesn't stand up, but yeah, the main thing is he will talk about items that I can't get out there. I'm a smaller baker. I use the word smaller, but I'm
Mhm.
trying my best to really put it out too. People need to be educated because
Yeah.
they come in and they just don't know what they're looking at. And
Yeah.
to me, like Germana said, they don't even do certain items. They don't even do in Italy anymore. We're still it's more in Brooklyn and New York City, everywhere, right, Germana? They're doing it here in America, but they're not doing it in Italy. So
Mhm.
we're past the baton. It's like a relay race. I guess we're
Uh,
past the baton. And who knows where it's going to go from here?
Yeah.
The next baton.
So I have one final question, and
Yeah.
again, if there is anything else that you wanted to add before answering this question, by all means. So, how do you see Veniero's influencing younger generations, both in the culinary arts and in preserving heritage? So,
Mm,
Germana, let's take it
you take it.
to you.
I think that Veniero might be a huge example for young generation for so many things, and that's why I was so happy writing this book, and that's why we are really trying to have the English version for,
Yes.
because a lot of Italian Americans can't read in Italian, so we would love Italian American and Americans to read this book and learn the story and the history of Veniero Pasticceria, because they can really teach you what it used to be being an Italian immigrant back then. They can really be an example about how you can struggle with your work, but you can succeed with hard work. At one point, Robert's father was doing 3 jobs at the same time to,
Right.
keep the business going. And it's an example of a melting pot of working together, because back then they used to be all Italian. Now with new migration, the bakers of Veniero are changing. They are Latin American, they are Italian, they're mixed. They are still a place where people can meet, can have a coffee together, can talk even if they don't know each other. They are a place where you can find your roots. Keep in mind that all the Italians that used to live in that neighborhood and moved to Jersey, to Connecticut, to wherever, go back to Veniero during holiday time to get their stuff. Because the taste, I mean, Proust was the first one to teach us through the Madeleine, but tasting something that it's familiar to you brings back to your mind wonderful memories.
Mhm.
And keeping tradition, keeping recipes, keeping love alive, it's something that new generation really need to know how to do it. And Veniero is definitely the place where they can learn how to do it.
Thank you. Thank you, Germana. Robert?
Yeah, it's funny she mentioned because the generation. I had dinner in a Polish restaurant last night with a firefighter, a good friend of mine. He's a firefighter, and we met two other firefighters, and one of them had a daughter named Tara. Tara is getting her not master's, or she's in a restaurant now. She's learning about business and restaurant hospitality. That's it. So afterwards, we ate. I says, Tara, something about she was asking about maybe programs where people could work for the day. I said, when we go back to the shop, I'll take you in the bake shop, which I like to do with some people, the original bake shop and down in the basement. We did the tour, and it was very, it's inspiring. So I do this a lot with younger people. I think they get a new, and I'm hearing a lot with the government in this country now is there's going to be a need for back. It's almost full circle. Yes, there's so many high tech people out there with digital being, if you're in a, what's it called, computer science, but they're going to need to build big buildings, and they're going back to tradesmen, a lot of tradespeople. So
Mhm.
what is Veniero? And I just did an Instagram video for somebody, and I ended it. I was really hyped into doing this video, and I did say, yeah, check it out. And I said, I threw in the line, this business is AI proof, and I mean it, like meaning you cannot get AI into this business that easily. So you need to do things by hand, and it's a
Mhm.
very hands-on. And obviously, the most of the people who are working now, where are they? They're Americans. They're not the United in here. They're from Central America. They're
Mhm.
there. They're from South America. They're from all over, but mainly they're the hardest. They're the biggest immigration wave. And we've always opened doors to everybody. Everybody. I can't just say it's like an Irish pub. You want to get a lot of Irish people, but we have to have a blend of everybody. But I
Mhm.
think that's the secret. It's you got to modernize with equipment and things like that, but some things just can't be. It has to be by hand. And I think that's what's good about this not the blue collar. I hate to use that term. I meant just tradesmen that go in and they want to do the baking as that kind of trade. I don't want too much of a modern. They need to know the old stuff too. Maybe go back
Mhm.
to Italy and try to, but where there's not as much in Italy. So what do we do? Bringing it full circle, what do? Maybe they learn from another bakery in Brooklyn how to make soy, doing something else, but they can come back and help me and do it and just keep it going. And one thing about my head baker, he's Sicilian, Angelo Santamaria, he's a couple of years older than me. He's been doing it for last 45 years or something, more, 50 years baking. But he always says to people, he does interviews, he says, I love what I do. He says, I love to innovate. I love to make new stuff, but on a slow basis. You don't have to go fast, just introduce a new item. And one of those new items was a coconut cake, and it went viral. It's amazing. It's a delicious coconut cake. That's not Italian, but think about it. There's a lot of people from the islands, Spanish. It doesn't matter where you're from, but it's such a good cake. So that's the key. Is red velvet cakes are great, but there's a carrot cake, a dark chocolate cake for the chocolate lovers. So you got to throw in. My sister, she's more Americanized. We're so Americanized. She lives in Weston, Connecticut, married a nice waspy husband, my brother-in-law Dean. It's like, but she identifies like Martha Stewart. She says we should try to make this cake. And you know what? It's a balance now. It's a great balance. You got the old, because if we stuck with just all the old, I don't think Veniero could go any further. That it would be there. There'll be customers, but you have to give them what they want, something they identify. But it has to be good. It has to be quality ingredients. So, and that's what we've done. We've managed to keep that balance the ball just perfect without going too overboard one way or the other. Make everyone happy, and a great price point too. And because the price point, some people say it's a little high, but we're giving the most quality ingredients. It's not cheap. And I'm very proud to say we didn't raise our prices in the last 15 months. We didn't raise with the egg prices when they were $430 a case. We kept it the same. And then we didn't raise when it was this trade stuff, the threat, people were like, oh, it's a perfect reason I could raise my prices. We just did it. And that's why I say, and we give huge portions. So you're getting almost a slice and a quarter, like more. So think about it. You're getting a bargain.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
And
it's a bargain.
if I can add something, Viviana, it's young generation can find, as Robert is saying, new items, but they can also discover recipes and items that they cannot have anywhere else. So they can even, discover the cookies that their grandparents used to love.
Right.
And it's something that it's very unique. And through the stories of Veniero, they can also discover how many wonderful things Italian Americans and Italians did in the city of New York. Because what I try to do with the book is, for example, make people learn that just because we are going into Christmas time, that, for example, the Christmas tree of Rockefeller Center, that now all over the world, everybody's waiting for the Christmas tree lighting ceremony. And I wanted people to know that these kind of things were started by Italians, because the first Christmas tree in the Rockefeller Center was made by Italian workers over there. And
construction workers, right? That were building Rockefeller Center.
Every landmark that you have in New York, Chrysler Building, Empire State Building, Brooklyn Bridge, you name it, was made by the Italians. So you can learn a lot of things through Veniero.
It is. And I think in addition to a window in this particular family and business, I think people are going to recognize their own story and the need to document, because right now we're taking a ton of videos about anything or everyone, but we're not really paying attention much. And I think we should be focusing, doing a little bit of those oral histories so that, a few years down the line, something is being documented. Well, Robert and Germana, it's been such a pleasure exploring not just the incredible pastries of Veniero's, but the stories, the history and culture that makes it so much more than a bakery. And Robert, thank you for sharing your family's legacy and passion. And Germana, thank you for bringing the stories of Italian-American culture to life for all of us. And for our listeners, whether you are in New York or elsewhere, a visit to Veniero's is not just a treat for your taste buds. It's a taste of history and tradition. So, but unfortunately, our time together has come to a conclusion. Il Big Ben ha detto stop, and it's time for us to say arrivederci e alla prossima. And we want to thank you for tuning in into the program. If you have any questions or comments, or if you have any topics you would like us to address, please contact us, theitalianradiohour@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And remember, if you or any of your family and friends have missed a prior episode or would like to listen to this episode again, subscribe to the Italian Radio Hour on YouTube or where you catch your favorite podcasts. And also, don't forget to share, because sharing is caring. So I would like to thank one more time Robert Zerilli and Germana Valentini, our sponsors Istituto Mondo Italiano and La Prima Espresso. And until next time, alla prossima. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao,
Viviana.
grazie.
Ciao, ciao.
See you
Grazie
in New
mille.
York, and I'm
See
booking
you in New York.
myself for a tour of the downstairs.
Will do. That's a promise. And upstairs. Up
Okay,
and down.
ciao, ciao, ciao a tutti.
Ciao, grazie.
Grazie mille. Ciao, everyone.